Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to do to finally achieve the level of financial success you desire and you deserve. What does it take to actually build a successful business? Black businesses are starting businesses at one of the fastest rates ever. However, if you look at the statistics, what you'll find is that many of those businesses are only making an average of $45,000 in revenues a year and are solo owned. So what does it take to really scale a business, make it viable, and actually have a team? Well, here's what you may not know about what it takes to start a successful business. And the truth is that getting financing when you don't have revenues from a traditional bank is difficult. In addition to that, most businesses get funded by family and friends. So what do you do if you don't have any friends with deep pockets? However, one of the alternative ways to actually get capital for your business is something called crowdfunding. And that's exactly where we're going to start today with our conversation with our guest today. Both her and her husband started a business initially from their kitchen table. It was a do-it-yourself hair care kit. And they eventually grew that business to over $1 million in sales. And one of the ways they were able to scale that business and get access to capital was through equity crowdfunding. And so that's the conversation we're going to have today. So I want to welcome one of those co-founders of Listener Brands, also known from her product Curl Mix, Kim Lewis, to Get Wealthy today. Welcome to Get Wealthy, Kim.
Deborah, thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you because I can remember us on the hunt for capital to build our business many years ago. And now to see the level of success that you've been able to achieve, it's so inspiring. And I wanted to have this conversation with you because I believe it's going to inspire our audience as well. Now, we have a framework for financial success on our Get Wealthy program. It's called Mindset, Strategy, and Execution. So that's exactly where I want to begin with you today. And it's the mindset question. Now, I remember you struggling with this little hair care kit, do-it-yourself kit, and you weren't making a lot of revenues. What kind of mindset shift did you have to make in order to go from maybe six figures to that seven-figure target?
That's a great question, Deborah. A lot of people, myself included, start businesses because they hate their job or they hate their boss. And honestly, I think that's one of the worst reasons to start a business. You should start a business because your product is needed in the world, not because you hate the person that you work with. If you hate your job and you hate your manager, go find a new job, a place that makes you feel comfortable. And I say that because starting a business is truly a labor of love and service. You are a servant first and foremost in everything you do. And originally when I started the do-it-yourself box, it was because I wanted to see, a DIY kit in the market because it would have helped me when I was going to Whole Foods, spending hundreds of dollars on raw materials, coming home, watching YouTube videos, making something and not liking it. And feeling like I waste hundreds of dollars. And this box would have helped me save money. However, my customer was still buying products, at the store every day or online or still buying ready-made products. And this was just kind of novelty and not necessity for her. And when I realized that, I was like, I need to make things that people want to see in the market and that they're willing to pay for, not things that I necessarily want to see in the market. And that shift helped me be open to feedback from my customers, to want to hear what they had to say, to, be bold enough to have a Facebook group where I can read their opinions about my brand every single day. And that mindset shift, I think, really propelled us to that first $1 million year. But making things that only I wanted to see in the market kind of kept us at the low six figures.
So just because it's something that you like doesn't mean it's something that the world is going to like. And so you gave us a sense of sort of where the idea from the business for the business came from, and that was your own needs. And typically that's, the problem we're trying to solve is something that we're experiencing ourselves. But you said something really interesting there, and it was about listening to your customers. So, for our audience, what did that mean for you to actually identify, okay, they may not want this, let me try something else?
One of the things we did early on that's free and very cheap for a lot of founders to do, but most people still don't do it even when they have brands making hundreds of millions of dollars, is have a Facebook group for them. After people are, after they purchase, they get added to our list, and then we send them to our Facebook group. And in there, and early on, we maybe only had like a couple hundred people in the group, and we would let them vote on kits that we were launching, or we would get their feedback if they liked something, if they hated something, if they loved something. And we would post polls every week. Oh, what's your favorite oil? What's your favorite butter? Do you do wash and goes? Do you do braid outs? What's your favorite place to watch a movie? All those kinds of things. And then we would respond to them. So after they would vote, we would literally change our business to accommodate that vote if it had enough respondents. So sometimes in that group, we'll get, now we have about, I want to say 16,000 customers in the group. And if a vote has like 500 or 600 people, and I'll give you an example. We have this subscription box within our company called Chromix Fresh. And in Chromix Fresh, we essentially let people, we have a new product every month at one point, and it was like actually 3 to 4 new products every month. And it got to the point where it was too much product for some of our best customers. And we voted and said, hey, you guys, do you want to switch Chromix Fresh to quarterly? And I think it had maybe 600 votes. This was like last summer or last Q4. And they were like, yes, we would love it if Chromix Fresh was quarterly. But they wanted it quarterly at the same price. I was like, I can't do that, but we can make it quarterly. We can make it quarterly. And so overall, it ended up being cheaper for them because it was more expensive than monthly, but it was cheaper than if you had gotten the box all 3 quarters. And those are the kind of changes we make in the business based on their responses in that Facebook group, which is free. And most people, don't have that part.
So I do want our audience to understand that your business, like so you shifted from this do-it-yourself kit, and now your company is the product that we're talking about right now is Curl Mix, right? And so just share with our audience what Curl Mix is and what problems those brands solve.
So Chromix is a company where we help you master your curls in 21 days, or our product is free. So what I mean by free, you will get store credit if you don't like it. And our primary product is a 4-step system to help women get this hairstyle. It's like a wash and go. It's for a Black woman over 40 who wants to have a signature look, who wants to look the same when she goes on a date, to church, to dinner, a soccer game for her kids or basketball game. But she wants to wear, use natural products. She wants it to be healthy for her hair. She doesn't want to wear extensions or weaves. And she's trying to, kind of get her hair to look more fuller and thick. And that is who our customer is and who we serve at Chromix. But Chromix is one brand. Sorry, go ahead, Deborah.
No, go ahead. I want you to finish.
But Chromix is one brand of the conglomerate that we're building. So we're building a direct-to-consumer Procter & Gamble type of business. So Procter & Gamble owns Always Maxi Pads and Old Spice and, deodorant, soaps, toothpaste, all those things. They have hundreds of products, and they're traded on the stock market. And my goal for my company is to be traded on the stock market one day. We're not yet, but crowdfunding gave me a bit of a taste of that. And so I want to do that. So we own all of our own manufacturing. We're vertically integrated. We hire Black and brown people from the South and West sides of Chicago, and we pay them starting at $19 an hour. And Chromix is just one of the many brands that we're going to build. We have Chromix and 4C only, and hopefully we'll launch more brands in the future.
I just wanted people to know that you've broadened that scope, from that kit to now a brand. And brand means many products within that brand. And I believe you already gave us some insight into the name of your brand is now Listener Brands, and you shared that you've been listening to customers. So is that where the brand was derived from, the name?
Yes, we make brands that listen. And when I say listen, people will say, well, how do you know how your customers feel? And most people are doing like a survey, every year to get feedback from their customers. I literally log into Facebook and see what they think every single day, because I am in the Facebook groups and we have community managers. We spend more time in our Facebook groups than we do on Instagram. And so the name for our holding company or our conglomerate, I realized, like, what do? We make brands in overlooked segments of the market. We make brands that listen to its customers. And so Chromix came from that, from me listening in those Facebook groups about what people actually wanted versus the DIY box. And the same with 4C Only. The number one comment on all of our ads was like, but this doesn't work for 4C hair. And I realized that the 4C women wasn't celebrated, even though everyone in our industry knows they convert and spend more money than everyone else, but no one was willing to put them at the front of the marketing, on the bottle, on the label. And so we went ahead and did that. And we listened to an overlooked segment of the market. And so that's what Listener Brands does. It makes brands that listen.
That's interesting that you say that 4C, and I want you to explain to our audience what is 4C hair and why you focusing on it and putting it at the forefront of your marketing is so important.
So there's this now, the hair types, they don't necessarily, they matter, but they don't matter, right? Like, so they matter in the sense of you want to be able to figure out who has hair similar to yours, but it isn't something that you should live and die by, right? It's something that you just, this is a tool that I can use sometimes. And essentially what it is 4C hair is on a spectrum, right? The person who created this model basically says that hair has, type 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then in every type, there's a level A, B, and C. And type 1 is straight hair. Type 4 is coily, kinky hair. But type 4 is the coiliest, kinkiest hair, and the tightest, right? So if you're like your afro in its natural state, if it's really, really tightly coiled, really, really kinky, then we call that 4C hair. And what we find is that a lot of the marketing kind of skips to the middle, where the person has like loosely coiled hair and she's curly, but like the truth of the matter is most of us do not look like that, especially Black women. And so 4C is usually just kind of lumped in there with everybody else. But their hair is very, very different. Think of like Lupita or Viola Davis, like they have like 4C hair. And so what we wanted to do is put them at the forefront without manipulating their hair, without making it look like it's straight or look like it's wavy, letting it live in its 4C glory, and celebrating them on the website. So when they come to the website, they see a woman with 4C hair, not someone who has like, loosely coiled or, whatever kind of texture. And so that is what 4C hair is.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there, but like so often what we thought was like good hair, that was curly, that wasn't kinky. So you may not go there, but I'm going to go there because that really is, the point of the fact of the matter is that so often what is depicted in media or marketing is what is considered idea from a totally out of the culture perspective. The only other question I have for you is I want to make sure people understand you created a sort of product for 4C hair, but I know in someone that's used your product, but even in the Curl Mix family, there's still a product that I can use in Curl Mix. Certainly there, you have different products for different types of hair, but I just wanted to clarify that with you.
Yeah, so Chromix is a much bigger brand than 4C Only. 4C Only has about 4 to 5 products available. Chromix, we have like over 100 probably. We have a few different kits to help you get a wash and go. So Chromix is a 4-step system to help women get this hairstyle. But we also offer other things like twist out creams and Chromix Fresh. And Chromix Fresh is our category where we have a ton of other products where there's like a little face, a little body, but mostly hair. There are protein treatments, there are color waxes, there are like all kinds of things in Chromix Fresh. So Chromix is a much bigger company than 4C Only, but 4C Only is only a year old. So we're hoping to grow it and scale it just like we did with Chromix.
Well, I'm glad you said scale, because that is the next part of the conversation that I want to kind of get into. And that is, we talked about mindset and the fact that you had to move from just making things that you think you want, and really began to listen to your customers and create products that are going to solve their problems, because that's what they're going to spend money on. When we come back, I really want to talk more specifically about strategy and how you were able to get the financing and the funding to scale Curl Mix. So folks, don't go anywhere. When we come back, we just talked about mindset. Next, we're going to talk about strategy and how she was able to go from that kitchen table to what we call in the business cap tables when you get funding for your business. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the six-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and today we're talking about how to build and scale a successful business. And so often, it's always the money that prevents us from being able to go to the next level. So my conversation today is with Kim Lewis. She is co-founder of Listener Brands. We've been talking about how she took her one product or brand, Curl Mix, and grew that to over $1 million in sales. Kim, thank you so much for coming on and kind of sharing your story. Now I want to get to strategy. And I know that it's so, as a business owner myself, we met pitching for dollars. And I want you to share with our audience a little bit about, so you scaled to $1 million. Did that give you the capital to keep scaling, or did you confront any kind of obstacles to prevent that?
People always think getting to, seven figures is the goal as an entrepreneur. And it's a great goal. And when that day that we hit seven figures for the year, it was like December 31st or something like that, the very last day of the year. And while I was ecstatic, I was still broke. Like we had a bunch of loans. We had a bunch of loans. All my people were contractors. We could not afford me and my husband were sharing $60K annually. And back then, my husband had quit his tech job where he was making multiple six figures on his own. So for us to be sharing $60K annually was like not enough, because we had a mortgage that was like a few $1,000s. So we were like, we didn't have much money. And it took me raising my first $1 million in venture capital, or really angel investors, right? Venture is more like institution backed. Angel is more like wealthy individuals. And that money actually gave us the money that we needed to actually scale the business. But when we had made our first $1 million, we didn't have much.
So now talk about, because I think that it's important for our audience to know, you go on social media, you hear all of this, you get to seven figures, but top line and bottom line are two different things, right? Whether or not you're in the black, and just because you have sales doesn't necessarily mean that you have the profits, to, coincide with that. And sometimes you've got to run at a negative. So I know that you and your husband decided to launch an equity crowdfunding campaign. So explain to our audience why you chose to go that route to get more money, and exactly what equity crowdfunding is.
Yes. And before I touch on that, Deborah, I'm going to definitely go deep in the equity crowdfunding piece. But I would love for your listeners to just I would love to share with them that we manufacture our own products. And that's special because most people are ordering their products from China, whether it be fashion or skincare, makeup or whatever. They're ordering from China. They're paying, I don't know, $1 or less sometimes for their raw materials or for the actual product that they're buying. And then they're selling it for like 20 or so here in the States, maybe 50, depending on if it's a skincare item. They're paying maybe a few bucks per item. And, those jobs are over in China. And, your people, they're not employing people here in the United States. There's nothing wrong with that form of business, right? And this is not me knocking anyone for doing that, because you got to do what you got to do sometimes to get the business off the ground. We decided to make flaxseed gel. Flaxseed gel was our number one selling box as a DIY company. And literally the flax seeds that you might put in a smoothie or that you would use as an egg substitute, when you boil them, it gives you a really gooey gel that helps you get this hairstyle. And when we went to manufacturers to make it, they all told us no. So we went to maybe 3 different manufacturers to get this made, and they all said no. And so we were like, okay, well, we're going to have to make it ourselves. And that basically, I spent maybe all of September when I was 7 months pregnant in my kitchen making 50 different batches of flaxseed gel until I landed on something that people loved. One lady actually flagged me down on Michigan Avenue in Chicago to figure out what was in my hair. And I'm like, man, we're in the street. We could get hit by a car. But she's like, what did you do to your curls? And from then we just decided to manufacture it, and we launched it to our audience. We did pre-orders and sold hundreds in a matter of hours. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what people want. So that's when we pivoted the business in top of 2018 and did $1 million that year. And then the next year we were on Shark Tank, and then we did about $5 million that year. And as you are building this business, so this is where the equity crowdfunding comes in, right? Manufacturing is capital intensive. You are buying all the raw materials, you are buying the machinery. Sometimes the machinery, just like a mixer, sometimes it's like $15,000, just to mix, to have a mixer on hand. And then you need 2 in case one breaks and you don't have another mixer, you can't make any product. On top of, paying your team, right? If my payroll is, $60,000, $70,000, I'm paying $30,000 alone in payroll tax for that payroll. And that's because I employ stateside. That's because I employ people in Illinois. I employ people of color, and I pay them a living wage. Minimum wage here is $10, $12. That's poverty in Chicago. And so I'm not willing to do that, especially not to my people. And so we start $19 an hour. For our full-time employees, we offer 401k, healthcare, benefits, vision, dental, et cetera. And in doing that, right, you manufacture, you pay people well, and you are growing very, very fast. That sometimes leads to lack of profit, because essentially I'm not stealing profit from my workers, right? And so what does that mean? That means I have to go ahead and fund the business. I have to find money to be able to do these things in my business. And so I have to go and pitch venture capitalists and see if I can get an investment from them. But I did that. I maybe spoke to about 30 VCs, and they always want to see more. I was like, we grew 500% on the 1 million that we raised. No one wants to invest. And they're just like, we want to see more. But if the person who's writing the check on the other side of the table doesn't look like you, they're always going to need more to be convinced that you're the real deal. So I was like, I have 100,000 customers. I can raise my own investment. And that's when we had crowdfunded last year. We launched our campaign in April. And we ended up raising $4.5 million from about 7,000 investors. So that means people like me and you. And equity crowdfunding is really important, because before, people like me, non-wealthy individuals, they could not invest in private companies before they went public. That was only reserved for wealthy individuals, people who are, I would call are rich, right? Making, $250,000 more annually, or having a net worth, I think it was $1 million or something like that. I might be getting the numbers wrong, but that's what it takes to be an accredited investor. And before this new law in 2012 called the Jobs Act, you could not participate in investing in an Uber or investing in a Facebook or investing in a Curl Mix or Listener Brands, because the law just said you could not. Now with equity crowdfunding, it opens up the opportunity for anyone, and you can invest up to 10% of your actual income into a, pre-IPO company. And I say pre-IPO means a privately held small business. And so that's what we did. We raised $4.5 million from 7,000 investors. I want to say maybe 60-ish%, which are our customers. And the other 40% are people who just were really inspired by what we were doing and, who found our campaign.
No, I wanted you to explain it rather than I explain it, because I feel like when you can see what's happening in real time and how, you just gave context. And so the bottom line is that in order to invest in a company like yours prior to the Jobs Act of 2012, you couldn't unless you had an income of $200,000 if you're a single person, or if you're a couple, $300,000.
Oh, sorry.
You have a net worth, right, of $2 million, and you don't include your home, which for most African Americans, that's where most of their equity is, in their personal residence. So really what the Jobs Act allowed was for you, someone like you, rather than having to go to these venture capital, and as I've pitched it too. And so I've collected so many no's. At some point, I did the same thing you did, but not with an equity crowdfunding. But the point is, you were able to raise up to $5 million and give access to investors who typically are shut out. And what many people don't know is that it is in these early stage companies where so many fortunes have been made, whether it's, people like Reid Hoffman, and who, based on what I know, invested in PayPal before they went public. So it's before, to your point, going public, that the real risk is, I don't want to, paint a picture of, there's many fortunes to be made. You have to be willing to lose what you invest, but the opportunity for reward is much greater. So thank you for explaining that. And so did I hear right that 60% of your customers actually invested in the IPO? I mean, in the equity crowdfunding raise?
Yes, in our crowdfund, we had 7,000 investors, and I think we brought 83% of the investors to WeFunder, which meaning only 17% of the people who invested they were already on WeFunder, and the other 83% we brought. And as far as customers go, 60% of that was my customers. So they really believed in our product and really believed in what we were doing and wanted to have a piece of it. They could not believe that I was offering this to them. They were so excited.
And I think you bring up something else interesting that our audience needs to understand. You hear about crowdfunding platforms. What Kim just mentioned is WeFunder. You may have heard of like a Kickstarter, which really typically is rewards based, where you're giving people some kind of benefit in order to invest in your company, and you're not actually giving them equity. But for many, I think there's sort of like this, what do I want to call it, a fable, if you will, that, oh, you just get on this platform and we're going to give you exposure and you're going to, people are going to automatically invest in your company. But what you just conveyed was the fact that you brought people to the table for WeFunder, which is on the WeFunder equity platform. And you maybe got a little bit, but it was you who really drove those investments into your company.
Yeah, I like to think of it as the platform is just the vehicle, and that's all they're going to be. They're going to help you get your landing page up there. They're going to help you with the legal of it, do's and don'ts, point you to different resources, SEC attorneys, accountants, auditors, etc. But they are not responsible for raising your actual round. They are just meant to be a vehicle between you and the SEC. Right? Because you can't do your own crowdfund on your own platform. It's technically illegal. So they're just meant to be the ones that are working on behalf of the SEC to allow you to raise this crowdfund, but it's still your responsibility to bring your actual crowd. So I usually don't recommend crowdfunding for people who are just starting their businesses. If you don't already have, a mailing list of 10, 20,000 people or more, crowdfunding is going to be very, very difficult for you.
Absolutely. You've got to have some kind of network already to leverage the platform itself. And of course, I think the fact that you had proof of concept, meaning your, revenue, people are buying your products and those people are happy with it, is brilliant. And that's exactly where I want to go next. And that is execution. So what you just heard is the shift that Kim and her husband had to make to go from this sort of mom and pop business to actually scaling and employing people. And then the strategy that she used basically was to listen to her customers. But now let's really talk about, she did that crowdfunding campaign. I'm more interested in what that crowdfunding allowed her to do. And so when we come back, we're talking execution.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Kim Lewis, co-founder of Listener Brands, with her husband, Tim Lewis, and them really sharing their story, her sharing her story about how they've been able to scale that one little business that started at the kitchen table, if you will, into a multi-million-dollar brand. And we just discussed how they have been able to get the funding to scale. And now, Kim Lewis, welcome back. I mean, this is so fascinating. Just the way you're giving a real insight look at what the grit and the different ways that you've had to kind of, flip the script, change it up in order to be successful. And so now I want to talk a little bit about strategy. Now, you mentioned that you are running your business with more costly, right, to produce your goods, because you're not, what you described was basically white labeling, right? Where someone is basically taking a product and putting their name on it and making it look as if it is a true brand, but it's not something that they actually manufactured. Am I right there? That's what you were describing?
Yes.
Yes. And so to that end, you talk a little bit about that you're making these products yourself, that, the cost of goods sold, if you will, of manufacturing these products are much higher. So your margin, right, is lower because it's costing you more, or your profit, let me just talk in just basic, terms, is lower because your margins are higher. So because your costs are higher. So I'm really interested in what was your strategy? You did this crowdfunding campaign. You raised almost the maximum that you can in an equity crowdfunding campaign. What's your strategy for the use of that money?
So one of it was I knew that this crowdfund was going to be the bridge between my seed and my Series A. So it was going to be the thing that kind of helped propel me. I realized I didn't raise enough money in my seed round. I had $1 million.
Tell our audience what a seed round is. So I'd love for you to just walk us through, like, first it's my own money, then I go out and get this, and then I go, what does that path look like?
So first I used my own credit cards. I went into my own personal debt for our business the first few years. And then shortly after that, I met Arlen from Backstage Capital, and she wrote me a $25K check as our first money in. And I would say that was maybe the beginning. It wasn't my seed round. It's like a pre-seed. It's kind of like you're not really doing enough revenue to do a seed, but like some people who just really believe in you as a founder want to write you a check. And so Arlen did that. And that $25K actually helped us get to $1 million in revenue. And that $1 million in revenue basically was like it helped get me on Shark Tank, and then also get to my next seed round from Jeff.
Stop there, because I left that out, Kim. It's terrible. I left that out, that you So you get to this $1 million. What many people don't know is that Kim was on, and her husband were on Shark Tank, and they walked away from that.
And will you be profitable?
Wow.
Yes, we'll be cash flow positive in 1 month. In 2 months, we'll be profitable. And we're projecting $180,000 in profits this year.
We walked away from a $400,000 offer from Robert Herjavec for 20% equity stake in our company because he was essentially valuing it at $2 million and we were already going to make $1 million. So that, you know, that's typically not how that works, especially when you're that early.
That's why they call them sharks. Right? To be able to get something at a lower cost. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but I know I left that out of the whole conversation. Your husband actually winning $100,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And then, you know, this whole going on Shark Tank and turning down the money, but keep going. So you get the money from Arlen at Backstage Capital. You get to $1 million in revenues, then what?
And then after we get to $1 million in revenue, the former CEO of LinkedIn, Jeff Winter, calls me up and says, "Hey, Kim, we want to invest $1 million in your company." I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so took that deal and that helped propel us to that $5 million. And the first thing we did
would that be considered seed capital or what would that be?
That was my first priced round and I consider it my seed round. So typically seed rounds are like your first official round. And you are looking at, you know, $1 to $3 million, I would say. Most seeds, I feel like are 1 to 5. Honestly, it depends on the company. 1 to 5 million. I only raised $1 million at the time because I was trying to be really kind of cheap with my equity. And I think it served us well now, but back then I probably should have raised a little bit more. So that $1 million, the first thing we did was make our team W-2 employees because everyone was contractors. We didn't have any benefits or anything like that. And then we also invested in some merch and some advertising in our manufacturing. We added like another unit in our building. We bought some materials to be able to produce in larger batches. So yeah, we really invested in the business and that helped us meet the $5 million in demand that we had. And then after that, I went out to fundraise and was just not having an easy time doing it, just for all the doubt, honestly, from the investors. And so I was like, you know what? That's not I spent the half of the year trying to fundraise and then the pandemic happened. And then we were booming because all of e-commerce was booming during the pandemic. And then the following year I tried to fundraise again. And it was just more of a nope. And so I was like, you know what? I'll crowdfund. And at that time, 2 or 3 months before I decided to crowdfund, it was like January, I want to say. In March, the actual law was changing on March 15th to be allow you to raise up to $5 million in equity crowdfunding via regulation crowdfunding. And so this to me is a bridge between my Series A and my seed. Series A is kind of like you're like a super official company. Seed, you know, some people still fail after the seed rounds of financing. So you could raise $1 million, $2, $3 million in your seed and like go belly up as a company if you don't figure out how to actually make money. Series A, you usually have some solid revenues as a company, and you're usually bringing in an institutional investor. So someone who has, you know, 200 million, 300 million on their books to invest in companies, and they are going to send you through an audit, way more diligence. They're going to ask you for all your files. They want to know who's on your team. It's a much more serious round. And so that's what I'm going after in my next level of fundraising. But this crowdfund was really the more I should have raised for my seed and then just a little bit to hold me over. So what we use that money for, we use that money to clear off any debts that we had. We use that money to figure out, you know, to bring, you know, ads in-house to, what else do we use that money for? I mean, inflation is real and it's benefiting us now. We know firsthand. We used to buy a drum of grapeseed oil for $4,000. Now a drum is basically 55 gallons. A drum of grapeseed oil now might be like $8,000. Like literally raw materials have doubled in cost for us as a business. And had we not crowdfunded, I don't know what would have happened because the inflation is a real thing. Labor shortages are real, even for people who pay well. There have been people who have come in and was like, they just walk off the job, like literally just walk off. Like, and that has happened to me, Deborah, more than 5 times. And we're not like horrible people to work with. I promise you, the person is just they're just like, this is just, I don't really want to do this. And they just like walk off.
Trust me, I know that. I know the feeling. They're all excited and, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love what you're doing. And then like a week later, it's like, wow, this is a lot, right?
Yes.
If you're going to grow the business. No, I mean, this is just, I think what you're saying is what people need to understand is when you crowdfund, when you're going for additional funds in your business, it is an investment. And so your point is that you took that money and you invested it in the business so that then it could produce more and it could deliver more to your customer base. And, fascinating, just watching you. And, I've been able to watch you from the time we met when you had your little sample bottles to now. And so now you're saying you're preparing for to go after that other money. However, when we come back, I want to go to our Analyze, Optimize, Maximize segment. And Kim, in this next segment, I really want you to share with our audience, if you knew then when I met you, what you have learned from your experience, what would you tell other entrepreneurs who maybe they are in that, very, very early stage where they're trying to figure out how to scale? What would you tell them? So when we come back, it's our Analyze, Optimize, Maximize segment. How can you learn from Kim's experience to accelerate your own business?
Put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you eat 10.
Oh my God.
So
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and I hope you've been enjoying this conversation. Tim and Kim Lewis, the founders of Listener Brands, were able to start a business from an idea, but certainly what we've learned is the importance of really listening to what your customers want and then giving it to them. That certainly has been the secret of success. They've raised almost $5 million in equity crowdfunding and their businesses and expanded their brands. And now, Kim Lewis, welcome back to Get Wealthy. I really would love for you to share from this perspective. If you were to analyze what you have done now, what would you have done differently? First of all, and then second, how could you have maximized it and now optimize as you're going forward? So I know that's, just think, analyze, optimize, maximize. What do you know now that you didn't do that could propel you even further?
One of the things, I feel like there are three things I learned, right? My number one job as a CEO is to always be finding money, whether that means making more money or raising more money or securing some kind of debt capital, or just figuring out all the ways. I feel like I know so many ways to get money now. So many. Like, I don't even know, there's a website where you can set the terms of your loan. And basically, just like you can crowdfund equity and you can crowdfund like rewards, you can crowdfund inventory. And they could have, 7,000 people all loan you, $100. And then now you've made up your loan and it has a certain payback period because it's a more guaranteed return for that investor, right? And so I didn't, that's the kind of example. It's an extreme example, but it's just like I know lots of ways to make money now, and to get money. And back then, I was focused more so working in the business, sending the emails or sending the SMS or making the product, just doing all the things in the business. But when you're so focused as an entrepreneur on doing things in the business and you're not thinking ahead, you're not planning for your team, you're not being a visionary and going out and getting money and meeting new people that will take your business to the next level, you are slowing your company down. It doesn't feel like it because we feel like, well, I'm working the hardest than anybody else. And the easy thing for us to do as entrepreneurs is to work and to do, because that is what comes naturally to us. The hard thing for us to do is to set a process up or a system in place, give it to our team and step away and let them be responsible for the result, because we don't want them to fail. So we would rather do it ourselves. But in doing that, you're missing the opportunity to go to this networking event and meet this billionaire. You're missing the opportunity to go pitch for Shark Tank. You're missing the opportunity to be a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You're missing the opportunity to find out that there's a foundation willing to give you a loan, you know what I mean, for millions of dollars, because you're not being the founder that you need to be to grow your company. So the first thing, my number one job is to get capital. My number two job is to hire great leaders who can then help you build your team so that you can, again, not be in the business, but working on the business. One of the mistakes I made early on was just hiring people because they were available and I deeply needed help. And I was like, oh, you want to work here? You're excited? You're going to do blah, blah, blah. Great. Like, let's get you in tomorrow. And like, that was the worst mistake you can make. If you don't have an onboarding plan for them, if you don't have their like tasks and deliverables the day they come in so they know what they're doing and they feel, indoctrinated in the culture. Because I mean, there's people I've hired and I was just like, oh, how did I like make that mistake? And so now I'm really good at hiring, but that's one of the things that comes with experience, right? Like you're good at it once people say the thing in the interview that you're like, oh, that's a sign. Definitely should not hire them. In the beginning, though, you hire any and everybody because you just need help. So first thing, get capital. That's my number job. Second thing, hire great people. Third thing, put in great systems. Those are my only three jobs, and I should not be doing anything else. That means I should not be posting on Instagram. I should not be sending emails. I should not be DMing people, back and forth with, customers in the DMs. I should not be commenting on all that, ads on Facebook. I should not be, and most people were like, oh my gosh, like she's talking to me. I'm only saying this because that was
Well, what you really described is the shift from entrepreneur, right, to business owner to CEO. That you literally had to become someone different in order to scale to the level that you have. And the one thing I want to say for you is full disclosure. I definitely invested in your equity your crowdfunding raise, and so did many of the members in our Wealthy You. You and Tim are such an inspiration. Just to see the level of complexity, right? Going from this one little thing to everything that you have been able to accomplish. And I just have to say personally how excited I am. And I can't wait to see what's next for you. So you say, I think I heard a little eventually an IPO in the future for you.
I would love that, Deborah. I just, it's funny. I would love to IPO. There's only one Black woman who's ever done it, Kathy Hughes, and she was technically the chairman of the board. So technically, there's been no Black female CEO to take a company public, which is bonkers. But when you don't know, but you think about the fact that women get less than 3% of venture capital, Black women get less than 1%, and then that makes it's more understandable how there hasn't been a Black woman CEO to take a company public. I want to do it for my shareholders, for my people, for the culture, for my community. But I do know that going public is going to cost you a good, 15 million, probably at least, and then a few million a year in additional capital just to maintain the team that you need to go public, the accounting, the SEC director, all of the director that communicates with the SEC. internal communications, all the inventory management systems. It's just so much that's involved. And that's why I want to raise my Series A for $20 million. I'm looking for a partner right now that would do that deal with me and that has an expertise in consumer products, is excited about us being direct to consumer until we hit 50 million and wants to kind of ride off into the sunset with us. And I'm honestly thinking about crowdfunding too, though, Deborah, because I feel like if I'm going to make somebody rich, like it should be my people. So that is what I'm working on.
No, I mean, and you bring up the fact is, and that this is what I want the audience to know, is in the work we do in Wealthy You, the people with the most assets literally participated in some type of liquidity event. And so that liquidity event is when you are in very early stage. You invested in the early stage seed round where you have taken the greatest risk. And then that company goes public. And then you are now the recipient of the shares and of the company going public. And now you can have a liquidity event and that's how you get wealthy. Kim, thanks so much for coming on Get Wealthy for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much, Deborah, for having me. Yes, and it is my hope and my dream to give all of you guys and all of your investors a liquidity event, whether that be an acquisition or an IPO. I prefer an IPO, but if I get a great acquisition offer, I'm no fool, okay? Like, I need to return all my 7,000 investors a return on their money.
Yeah, let me just explain to you what that is. She could either go public or some amazing company can say, you know what, we just want to buy you. And so that also is a liquidity event, and they have to pay off those early stage investors. So Kim Lewis, co-founder of Listener Brands, thank you so much for coming on Get Wealthy. And please give Tim Lewis, the other half, our regards.
Will do. Thank you so much for having me, Deborah. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks so much. Well, when we come back, the 3 takeaways from today's show that you need to know. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. You've learned a lot about what it means to scale a business, but you've also learned the ins and outs of scaling a business, of getting access to capital, of seed funding. We covered a lot of ground, but here's the takeaway. First thing, and she said it takes money to make money. She said her job was to find capital for the company, and that's what you need to understand if you're going to scale your business. Secondly, it's not working in the business, it's working on the business. You have to become someone different if you want to go from that solopreneur to really that CEO. And then finally, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. It's not you being the talent, it's finding the talent to make your company grow. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for watching Get Wealthy. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach.